Sanyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Guru Premanande.
Jai Om Vishnuvad Punaman Supri Prad Kacharya Stotra Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Miraj Prabhupada Jai
Jai.
Ananta Koti Brinda Ki Jai
Jai.
Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai
Jai.
Kaho Shri Jai Shri Shiva Sharigo Shri Radha Kungi की जय गंगामाई की जय मन की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय Samaveta Bhakta ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Welcome everyone to Srimad Bhagavatam with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. It is June 9th, 2025, and today we're starting with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 16, Text 11. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, I'll begin with text 11. Rasado Virvisa Ha Asano Pi Vidur Avat Naibabi Babitum Sakyo Vinarani Hito Nala. Translation. King Prithu was born of the dead body of King Bena as fire is produced from Arani wood. Thus enemies will not be able to approach him. Indeed, he will be unbearable to his enemies, for although staying very near him, they will never be able to approach him, but will have to remain as if far away. No one will be able to overcome the strength of King Prithu. Purport. Irani wood is a kind of fuel used to ignite fire by friction. At the time of performing sacrifices, one can ignite a fire from Irani wood. Although born of his dead father, King Prithu would still remain just like fire. Just as fire is not easily approached, King Prithu would be unapproachable by his enemies, even though they would appear to be very near him. Maharaj or others, do you have comments here?
No, I don't. Not in this verse.
Okay. Madhupati Prabhu, are you able to read text 12?
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshuntanena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Gurudas Jayadvaita Swami. Antarbahishya Bhutanam Pashyan Karmani Charanai Udasina Iva Dhyaksho Vayu Atmeva Dehinam. King Prithu will be able to see all the internal and external activities of every one of his citizens. Still, no one will be able to know his system of espionage, and he himself will remain neutral regarding all matters of glorification or vilification paid to him. He'll be exactly like air, the life force within the body, which is exhibited internally and externally, but is always neutral to all affairs. This verse talks about the qualities of King Prithu, how you'll see the internal and external activities of every one of his citizens. Yeah, there's no purport on this verse. Kumar, you had anything you'd like to add?
I can say something.
Yeah.
Are you going to say something, Madhupati? Mike, go ahead.
I just mentioned about some qualities which are mentioned here, but you can.
Raj, you're frozen for me. Or choppy.
Yeah. I'm going to turn off my video. It's poor signal here. I haven't the connections have changed. I was here last, and not for the better. Were you going to say something there, Madhupati?
The only thing which I could see this is the qualities of King Pithu are mentioned, that he sees all the internal and external activities of everyone, of his citizens. And he's neutral regarding all matters of glorification, purification, fame or infamy. In Bhagavad Gita, it means fame or infamy, one who is neutral to either fame or infamy. The good qualities.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Neutral to all affairs.
Okay.
So, sorry, Kurumaj, go ahead.
Okay. Chakshurmilitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Shri Chaitanyamobhistam Sthitam Jaina Bhutale Swayam Upakadam Mahyam Dadati Shapadam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Pradijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Shri Radha Krishna Jakam Vitamstra Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Banto Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Taptakam Shana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Holi Priye Manshakol Pitarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Ram. In this verse, he's Antarbahis Chabhutanam in Bhagavad Gita. Antarbahis Chabhutanam Aksharam Ksharameva Sukshmatat Tadavigyayam Durastam Chantiketatat. In the previous verse, he's very far, he's very near. These are all qualities of the super soul that we find in the Bhagavad Gita. So, or the qualities of the Absolute is as he's the Adhyaksha, he's the overseer, and he's seeing through spies also. Jaranai those who are moving around. He's got spies moving around. He can understand what's going on in the kingdom. At the same time, he's udasina, he's aloof. Vadyastra dveshu bandhushu, between friends and enemies, and so on. He's equipoised. Vayuratmeva dehina. He's like the air or the pran within the body, which is seen internally, externally. So these are so subtle also. He's like Sutratma, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur says, the thread passing through the whole universe. And yes, all right, that's good enough.
Okay, now we are on text 13. Wondering if Saraswati Mataji is available by any chance?
Yes, text 13. Na dandayam dandayatisha sutam atma dvisham api dandayati atmajam api dandayam dharma pate stitaha. Translation: Since this king will always remain on the path of piety, he will be neutral to both his son and the son of his enemy. If the son of his enemy is not punishable, he will not punish him. But if his own son is punishable, he will immediately punish him. Purport: These are the characteristics of an impartial ruler. It is the duty of a ruler to punish the criminal and give protection to the innocent. King Prithu was so neutral that if his own son were punishable, he would not hesitate to punish him. On the other hand, if the son of his enemy were innocent, he would not engage in some intrigue in order to punish him. Om Gyanantimirindasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Once again, we are reminded of the glorious qualities that King Prithu possesses. He would not hesitate to punish a criminal who deserved to be punished, regardless of whatever relationship, bodily relationship he may have. So he was going to be completely neutral, and justice would be served without hesitation. we don't see this so much at all, actually, in this day and age where nepotism reigns supreme, and it's who you know that can get you off if you did commit a crime, with whatever connections that one may have. But in the kingdom of King Prithu, no such injustices were carried out. And if, as it said, if a criminal was guilty, then he would be meted out with the appropriate punishment. I just think that that's such a wonderful kingdom to live in, where you know you can count on justice being served every time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nothing more from me.
Okay, for text 14, Venkatesh Prabhu, are you available? Okay, I think the other people in the call are okay.
No, I mean, someone else can lead this time. Thank you.
Okay. You can circle back to me if that's all right, unless someone wants to volunteer.
Yogananda.
Yogananda Mataji wrote to me that she's not able to.
Okay. Yeah, great.
I don't know if Naveen is able to.
Yeah, sure. I can I can do. Asya prati atam chakram prator amana sachalat vartate bhagavan arko yavat tapati go ganai. Translation: just as the sun god expands his shining rays up to the Arctic region without impedance, the influence of King Prithu will cover all tracts of land up to the Arctic region and will remain undisturbed as long as he lives. Purport. Although the Arctic region is not visible to ordinary persons, the sun shines there without impediment. Just as no one can check the sunshine from spreading all over the universe, no one could check the influence and reign of King Prithu, which would remain undisturbed as long as he lived. The conclusion is that the sunshine and the sun god cannot be separated, nor could King Prithu and his ruling strength be separated. His rule over everyone would continue without disturbance. Thus, the king could not be separated from his ruling power.
Naveen Prabhu, would you like to comment on this?
Nothing at the moment.
Okay. Maharaj?
The example of the sun god is there, and how he extends his power through his shining light, Arka Tapati Goganai. I'm intrigued and to Prabhupada's translation here about the Arctic region. The literal text is Manasa Achalat, which means up to the Manasa mountain or the Manasottara mountain. In the 5th canto, we'll find that this Manasottara mountain takes a circular shape. It the various dweeps are situated, or islands are situated one after another, something like concentric donuts, forming the structure of the universe horizontally. And the Manasottara mountain is also of that same nature. It's one of the circles within the universe. And if I remember, it's perhaps halfway out on the diameter. don't recall exactly, but that's you get the picture that it's at least part way, a good way out there. And the sun's chariot revolves along the top of that mountain. Going a little far afield, the picture is something like that of a oil pressing machine, the Bhagavatam says, which I actually saw one of those machines when I was on Padayatra. I was amazed by it. It was in the courtyard of a house. I just looked through the gate, and there was this machine. It has a pole in the middle, and then there's a circle. In this case, if I remember, made of hardened earth or of concrete, extending for about 6 feet or something like that. And then at the edge of that, there's a groove. That's where you're going to put your oil seeds so that they get crushed. And there's an axle which extends from the pole in the middle up to where that wheel would be on the circumference. And there's a bull that is attached to the apparatus and moves that wheel around, moves that whole axle and wheel around. And the axle is attached to the pole, to the top of the pole by a wire, so that wire in some way holds things together. And the sun is compared to that because it travels the axis of the sun god's chariot. The axle of the sun god's chariot has one wheel, and it's the wheel that travels on top of the Manasotara mountain. So that's literally what the text says, that it's his circle of influence goes all the way up to the Manasotara mountain, just as the sun god is shining. But Prabhupada says up to the Arctic region. So that up to the Arctic gives us perhaps a picture that we're more readily able to grasp since we don't know all about Manasotara mountain and the sacred geography of the 5th canto. I'm reminded of a translation. It's what's known, if I can go a little further afield, in translation studies as dynamic equivalence. Mistake some translators make in the very beginning is they try to translate every word of the text word by word, and it doesn't really make sense that way, because the words have more than a literal meaning. There's idioms and there's shades of meaning, and if you just translate things word for word, you're likely to lose a large portion of of the meaning. So, but dynamic equivalence means instead of just saying everything word for word, you sometimes use very different words which convey the intended meaning for the benefit of the audience. An example that I saw was, there's a passage in the Bible, though your sins be scarlet, they shall become as white as snow. You'll be absolved of your sins, in other words. Though your sins are scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. So there was a priest, I guess, who was translating the Bible into some African language. And the problem was that no one there had seen snow in the place where he was, where that language was spoken. So if you translate it literally, white as snow, it's meaningless for the audience. So he translated, though your sins are scarlet, they'll become as white as the inside of a coconut. So that's dynamic equivalence. Although that's not literally what the text says, the audience will understand the intended meaning. So here, Arctic is not specifically mentioned, but when Prabhupada says that the and power of Prithu Maharaj would extend everywhere, all the way up to the Arctic, we get the idea. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Saraswati Mataji writes, Pranams Param Puja Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas. King Prithu's power in ruling could not be counteracted by anyone, which is just like Krishna's absolute powers, where his will also cannot ever be checked. So can we assume Krishna has extended some or all of his power to Prithu Maharaj indefinitely?
Definitely, definitely, indefinitely. And that's stated. That's his Shaktivesh avatar. Shaktivesh means invested with the potencies of the Lord. And someplace, Chakravarti Thakur says, full potency of Lord, or maybe Prabhupada himself says that. So yes, so Shakti Avesh, she's invested with power. He's not just an ordinary living being. He's specifically empowered by Lord Vishnu, and therefore he's counted as a particular kind of avatar or descent of the personality of Godhead. In this case, the potencies of the Lord are bestowed upon him, and so he manifests the presence of the personality of Godhead in that way. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, I have a follow-up to that. What is meant by full potency?
Full potency?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. And I'm not quite sure the answer, what's meant by full potency, because we hear elsewhere that only Krishna manifests the full potency of the Lord. But I guess you'd say, I hate to say I guess, but he's endowed with full potency to a certain extent. Or it can be great potency. Yes, full potency to a certain extent. Extraordinary potency, one would say. Otherwise, we hear elsewhere that only Krishna manifests all the opulences of God to the fullest extent. Even Lord Vishnu doesn't do that. So, extraordinary potency. Hare Krishna.
Praveen Prabhu writes, so Maharaj Prithu didn't rule the entire Bhumandala since he did not rule those dvipas beyond Mansotara mountain.
In one sense, those are the desolate regions. There's beyond Mansotara mountain, where we just like to be president of America. So you're not you're not really doing much as far as the desert is concerned, even though it's part of America. You don't, your rules and your laws and so on don't really have much to do with the desert, because the desert is where people don't go. So beyond the Manasotara mountain, people don't go. There's not, as I recall, things are not going on there that would be of interest to the king, or that would be relevant for his rule. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So now we're on text 15. So I think you can circle back to me unless someone, or unless Venkatesh Prabhu is now available. Okay, I will go ahead with text 15. Banjayi sayati yal lokam ayam atma vichesti tai atamum ahu rajanam ano ranjana te paja. Translation. This king will please everyone by his practical activities, and all of his citizens will remain very satisfied. Because of this, the citizens will take great satisfaction in accepting him as their ruling king. Maharaj or others, do you have comments here?
Yeah, the essentially what's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains, because the world will be pleased by his acts, which give happiness to the mind, Mana Ranjanakai, they will call him king. Raja is derived in two words. Some say Raja comes from Rajati, he shines. Here it is said Raja comes from Ranjayati, he attracts, pleases. So it's etymology. What is the source of this word, Raja? So one derivation, it can come from he shines, Ranjayati, Rajati rather, or it can come from Ranjayati, he attracts or he pleases. So here it's that latter meaning that's being taken. He pleases Mana Ranjanakai. He's pleasing to the mind of the citizens, and therefore he's known as Raja, king. Or you could say he deserved the name king because he pleased all the citizens. So again, we get the picture of an all-benevolent king by whom all the citizens were greatly satisfied. Hare Krishna.
Now we're on text 16. Is Madhupati Prabhu available to read?
Okay. Jayadvaita Satyasand Brahmanya Vida Sevaka Saranya Sarva Bhutanam Manado Dinavatsala. The king will be firmly determined and always situated in truth. He will be a lover of the Brahmanical culture and will render all service to old men and give shelter to all sundered souls. Giving respect to all, he will always be merciful to the poor and innocent. Purport. The word Vrida Sevaka is very significant. Vrida means old man. There are two kinds of old men. One is old by age and another is old by knowledge. This Sanskrit word indicates that one can be older by the advancement of knowledge. King Prithu was very respectful to the Brahmanas and he protected them. He also protected persons advanced in age. Whatever the king would decide to do, no one would be able to stop. That is called Drida Sankalpa or Drida Vrata. Omagyanatiminandasya Gyananjana Salukaya Chaksuntaniyana Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Putare Gurutas Jayadvaita Swami Timani. Here further two qualities of King Prithu, glorious qualities are mentioned. That how is Drida Vrata firmly determined that whatever sankalpa he decides to do, no one would be able to stop. He's fully determined. And for the Vida Sevaka, Vida means old man, and Srila Prabhupada nicely mentioned the purport about these two kinds of old men. One is old by age, another is old by knowledge. Old by knowledge means quite senior. As a Brahmana, Brahman is supposed to be learned, so Prithu Maharaj was very he was a lover of the Brahmanical culture and will render service to both the Brahmanas and those who were um, older in age. And that way he will give shelter to all sundered souls. Yeah, that's all I had. Let me see. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur mentions Satya Sandha means true to his promise. He'll be true to scriptural vows, Dridhavata, and everyday promises, Satya Sandha. That is the difference. True to his promise. And whatever scriptural vows, he'll be true to scriptural vows, Dridhavata, and everyday promises. Yeah.
The Prabhupada mentioned Prahlad Maharaj as an example of one who's old by advancement in knowledge. Although he was only a 5-year-old boy, he was as good as old because he was advanced in spiritual understanding. Vriddha Sevaka. This is an important item of Vedic culture. One has to be kind and considerate to women, old men, cows, Brahmins. Let's see. And the diseased, am I right? No, children. Old men, children, women, Brahmins, and cows. These were all counted as defenseless creatures. Old men on their own will have difficulty. They may not be able to do things for themselves. They need help. They need assistance. They need some courtesy. We had an elderly lady, Devahuti Dasi, living in our Boston temple many, many years ago. And Prabhupada said that she's entitled to some extra respect, that she should be treated very respectfully because she's older. And that's proper and that's needed. We have to extend special protection to children. We have to extend extra protection to cows, Brahmins. They're not busy making money. They're not busy in military activities to protect themselves. So the king has to protect the Brahmin. The Vaishyas have to protect the cows, and so on. So the king here is described as being a servant of the old, of the elderly. In the Bible also it's said, honor thy father and thy mother. So this is part of Vedic culture or any culture, that the elderly are treated with respect and the children are carefully protected, and the Brahmins, the cows, in this way. And what is that? Manada Sarvabhutana, Sharanya Sarvabhutana, and Manada Dinavatsalaha. He'll give respect to all, Manada, and Dinavatsala. He'll be very kind to the poor and the helpless. Not that the helpless should just go hang, be neglected, but naturally the strong have to protect the helpless, and specifically the king has to give help to those who are in need. That's his duty. Hare Krishna.
Okay. For our next verse is Saraswati Mastri, are you available? We're on text 17 now.
Text 17. Matra bhakti parasrisu patnyamardha ivatmanaha prajashu pitravat snigdha kinkaro brahmavadinam. Translation: the king will respect all women as if they were his own mother, and he will treat his own wife as the other half of his body. He will be just like an affectionate father to his citizens, and he will treat himself as the most obedient servant of the devotees, who always preach the glories of the Lord. Purport: a learned man treats all women except his wife as his mother, looks upon others' property as garbage in the street, and treats others as he would treat his own self. These are the symptoms of a learned person, as described by Chanakya Pandita. This should be the standard for education. Education does not mean having academic degrees only. One should execute what he has learned in his personal life. These learned characteristics were verily manifest in the life of King Prithu. Although he was the king, he treated himself as a servant of the Lord's devotees. According to Vedic etiquette, if a devotee came to a king's palace, the king would immediately offer his own seat to him. The word Brahmavadinam is very significant. Brahmavadi refers to the devotees of the Lord. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan are different terms for the Supreme Brahma, and the Supreme Brahman is Lord Krishna. This is accepted in Bhagavad Gita 10.12 by Arjuna, Param Brahma Param Dhama. Thus, the word Brahmavadinam refers to the devotees of the Lord. The state should always serve the devotees of the Lord, and the ideal state should conduct itself according to the instructions of the devotee. Because King Prithu followed this principle, he is highly praised. I'm reminded of a very famous bhajan that Narsi Mehta, who is very well known in the Pushti Marg, wrote specifically in regards to treating other women as one's mother. He said, Parstri jene matere, other than one's own wife, all other women are to be regarded as a mother. And here, of course, it said that the king will respect all women as if they were his own mother. And also, the king will care for the citizens in his kingdom, just as an affectionate father would for his own children. This is a glorious kingdom where a king such as King Prithu would be ruling. And I was just thinking, what did I want to say? Well, yes, of course, Krishna's position as the absolute personality of Godhead. Bhagavad Gita, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Param Bhavam, Purusham, Sasvatam, Divyam, Adi Devam, Ajanma Vibhum, establishes that Krishna is the absolute supreme personality of Godhead. And any kingdom where devotees and, of course, protection of cows is carried out is the most successful and perfect state. And we know in examples of kings such as even King Dasarath, the father of Lord Ram Chandra, whenever devotees, great saints, sages would come visit him, including Vishwamitra, he would automatically get up from his throne and offer the royal throne as the seat upon which the visiting saint devotees would come and sit. He would worship that devotee, that great saint, by washing their feet. And, he considered himself as a servant of that great of the brahmanas, and even for the citizens, they didn't consider themselves the supreme ruler in which they can do whatever they felt, and inflict whatever treatment they felt. They didn't have that sort of arrogance. They understood their actual position as servant of a servant of Krishna. And I wanted to ask Maharaj a question, actually, because I read something in Brihad Bhagavatam, and it's from, Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4.64, where the translation is where Krishna is saying, without saintly persons for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss or my supreme opulences. So just reading this, it's saying that Krishna values the devotees to such an extent, and he enjoys these interactions with his devotees, that you can't compare that with whatever enjoyment he experiences, whatever transcendental bliss he experiences, just from having these supreme opulences that he alone possesses. So Maharaj, it just threw me off a little bit, because of course for a common person, whenever they possess opulences to such a degree which is unrivaled, that no one else has it to that extent, you do enjoy this position. But here Krishna is saying that that these saintly persons are so dear to him that whatever he may possess in terms of the absolute opulences cannot compare to the happiness he experiences from interacting with his devotees. Am I understanding this correctly? Hare Krishna.
Well, let's see if I understood it. Krishna says that he gets pleasure by serving his devotees, and then he takes pleasure in his opulences in that way. Maybe if you could draw the perceived contradiction for me one more time in brief, that would help me. Yes, Saraswati?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. The verse is Naham Atmanam Asasya Mad Bhakte Sadupir Vina Shriyam Atyanittikam Vapi Yesham Gatir Aham Para. Srimad Bhagavatam 9.4.64. Without saintly persons for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss or my supreme opulences.
So he's Atmaram, Krishna. He takes pleasure in his own opulences. Why shouldn't he? If we take pleasure in our greatness, then we're, what would you say, enjoying borrowed credit. I'm so great, but what great are you? The greatness is only to the extent that Krishna has allowed, and it may disappear from your association at any time. You may lose those opulences. So in that sense, my opulence is illusory. It's based on something that comes and goes. It's based on this body. I'm a great prize fighter or a great wit because of my body and mind. But that will all be gone. So I'm taking pleasure in illusion. But when Krishna is taking pleasure in his opulences are all transcendental. What else is there for Krishna to take pleasure in than himself? Vasudeva Sarvamiti. So there's nothing wrong with Krishna taking pleasure in himself. The materialists, they'll criticize no matter what. If he takes pleasure in himself, they'll say he's egotistical. If he takes pleasure in the rasa dance, they'll say he's a womanizer, or whatever. They'll use everything as an opportunity to criticize Krishna. But Krishna does take pleasure, but he doesn't take pleasure in his opulences without his devotees. Just like men may have money and lots of innovative gadgets and a beautiful home and a lovely wife, but if he doesn't have the friends, then it's empty for him. Prabhupada decided that, what is that in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna, Arjuna says that Kim no Rajyena Govinda Kim Bogar Jivitena Yesham Arte Kankshitam no Raja Sukam, what is that? Raja Sukanicha, Acha Rajam Sukanicha. What use is all the, okay, if I win the kingdom, I get all these opulences, but Kapriti says, Janardana, what happiness will there be for me if it's at the expense of my friends and my relatives? They're the, I get happiness when I can show my friends, see, here's my new Tesla, see, here's my new bride. But if my friends are all dead, my relatives are all dead, what will I enjoy? How can I enjoy? So so that verse is there. I don't enjoy my own opulence, as Krishna says, in the absence of devotees. It's the devotees who actually give Krishna pleasure. Is that all right?
Yes, Maharaj, thank you so much.
Praveen Prabhu writes, the biological mother and son have a very intimate relationship. They can joke sometimes, but that and other such exchanges doesn't seem suitable with other women. What is the respect mentioned here when he respects other women as his own mother?
Yeah, actually, yes, matra bhakti, bhakti, devotion, matra bhakti. One shows respect, one shows the mothers of human society. Women should be respected. So it was for example, just a simple thing. Now it's totally out of fashion. But still decades, then the woman was also more for the woman. The woman would pass that you think through, but
Raj, you're very choppy in connection.
was that
It's on my end, I'm not hearing, yeah, Praveen Prabhu as well. There's not a lot of signal coming through right now. Okay. Well, it's time for Kirtan. Venkatesh Prabhu, are you available? Unless Maharaj comes back and maybe soon and wants to finish the thought there.
Yes.
Yeah, it's 54, so you can.
Okay, Kirtan. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyava.
Sorry. Carry on. Yes, please carry on.
Pashatya Deshatarni Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayadvaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Vishwal Paramamsa Prabhupada Ashtotar Shatahi Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya, BBD Founder Acharya, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Antakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Brimstake of Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Gangamai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All grace assembled devotees. All grace assembled devotees. All grace assembled devotees. All grace, Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami ki jai. Raj, would you like to finish that point while we have 2 minutes? Maraj?
Well, I guess was that that culture means when I think for a man to open a door for a woman if she was passing through the same door. So that's culture. That women should not be exploited. Women should not be just derided or viewed as objects of sense gratification, but they should be respected. That's the sign of culture. Cultured person is respectful to the elderly. He's respectful to women other than his wife, and his wife he treats like half his body. He has affection for his wife. He treats not that you're a slave, my slave now, but I can relate one short story. I know we've reached our time, but a minute. My mother visited India, and Radhanath Prabhu, a disciple of Radhanath Maharaj, who at the time was the administrator of Bhaktivedanta Hospital, drove her around the city, showed her a little bit of Bombay. And while they were driving, I think it was midday, he got a call. And he said, "Oh, that must be my wife." He said that I'd left orders with my staff that during my lunch hour, no one can call me. He said, except for my wife. He said, because in India, the women are very devoted to their husbands. They sacrifice so much for their husbands, and they do so much service. And just they need a little affection, a little affection, a little appreciation. So I've given orders that no one can call me except for my wife. So my mother was so appreciative because this is culture. This is actual culture. To know how to deal, how to be generous to the poor and helpless, how to be respectful to the wives of others, how to treat one's wife with affection, how to show respect to all. These are the signs of a cultured person. Matravat padadareshu, padadravyeshu loshtavat, atmavad sarvabhuteshu. So therefore, Prabhupada remarks that it's not just education, what facts you can muster, what speculations you can engage in, but how we treat, you can judge a society. How do they treat their wives? How do they treat other women? How do they treat the elderly? How do they treat, how do they protect children? How do they treat cows? In this way, how do they treat the Brahmins or the learned, the intellectual people? Then one can see what kind of civilization this is. All right, and I'll do what I can before tomorrow to try to see if I can get a better connection. Hare Krishna. Thanks to all.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Thank you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande.
Holiness Jayadvaita Swami ki jai.
Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Jaya.